Thank you for joining us for today's webinar, An Introduction to MAPEI's Marine Line. We have some brief housekeeping before we start. Your phones are on mute. If you have any questions, please type them into the Q&A box in the corner of your screen and we'll answer them at the end of today's session, time permitting, or via email after. And you can always send questions to mapeidigital@mapei.com. Now, without any further delays, I'd like to introduce today's speakers, Mike Daniels and Guido Sardi. Mike is the Technical Services Manager for MAPEI's Marine Division. He has 28 years of experience at MAPEI and a total of 35 years of experience in the construction industry. This experience includes technical assistance and product training for marine markets, small and large-scale physical and structural testing of building systems, construction of building assemblies, product formulation and quality control in the United States, the Caribbean, and South America. He's currently responsible for on-site product support, product recommendations, and performing product training on the installation of underlayments, flooring systems related to marine applications, and the evaluation of new products or systems in development. Mike is an active ASTM FO6 and C21 committee member. Guido Sardi is the Business Development Manager for MAPEI's U.S. Marine Division and is responsible for market share and new product development. He joined MAPEI in 2016, bringing his 20 years of experience in the marine industry to help foster the growth of MAPEI's marine line of products. His experience in the marine industry includes international sales for various sectors ranging from pumps for hulls and engines to resin floorings. Guido also has experience in consulting gained through his work with the Italian Research and Consultancy Center owned by Fincantieri, one of the world's foremost cruise ship builders. I welcome them both to the microphone. Mike and Guido, the floor is yours.
Well, good afternoon. I'm hoping that's where you are. It's an afternoon or morning. Thank you for joining us today for an introduction to the MAPEI Marine Line. Now, today we want to talk a little bit just to introduce you. We're not going to really dive in deep. And I want to say that MAPEI is not new to the marine business. We've been selling leveling materials, patches, adhesives, and other supporting products for many years to this industry. MAPEI realized that the marine environment is different from land-based installation of finishing materials, and there's a large variety of ships and types of vessels that require solutions for finishes. So about 5 years ago, MAPEI gathered a team of experts to offer a specifically designed group of products and services to the marine industry. With our knowledge of materials and their experience, we created a line of products for the marine business, including seamless resin decking solutions for interior areas, resin deck systems for exterior, resin leveling materials, finishes, and then we advanced our cement-based leveling, patches, adhesives, and then added an additional line of turnkey installation services. All of these things we're going to discuss. For this introduction, we're going to focus largely on the cruise ship business, but that these products also will apply to other types of ships, including cargo, tankers, military, offshore platforms, tugboats, support craft, mega yachts, and recreational boats, just to name a few type of crafts. We're going to cover a few topics today just to kind of familiarize you. So we're going to start off by talking about what are the requirements for a product to be used on a ship. Then we're going to move on to the importance of having specifically designed and certified products for ships. And then we'll talk a little bit about features and advantages of marine line of products, including a brief discussion on what products are specific to the industry. Now, many of you have probably seen one of these ships in a photo, or if you live down in Florida or near a port, you've seen some of these big cruise ships come in. And the ship is not quite like the structures we see on land. It's subject to a lot of forces that a land-based building are not. So they flex and vibrate. Now there was an article published around 2017 by a person named Aisha Khan, and they described the forces in a ship like a continuous earthquake that sends vibrations through the structure of the ship continuously as it navigates. Now, consider a flexible yet strong design needed to resist these forces for an atrium chandelier found on the cruise ship Seven Seas Explorer. You see that picture on the left. That chandelier is pretty big. It's a couple stories tall. Now, another example of this strong and flexible design is a wine tower on the Celebrity cruise ship that actually stores and keeps more than 2,000 bottles of wine safe while the ship is moving. Now, how it does it is it uses a series of gyroscopic stabilization systems that each bottle is suspended independently. So each bottle is stabilized individually so they don't have any breakage. So we can summarize that these ships are going to bend, vibrate, they're going to twist torsionally as the ship is moving. And the forces applied to the ship, that are being applied are from wind, the currents of the ocean, propulsion, and even the directional navigation of the ship, as well as your passenger weight, your equipment weight, your supply load. Now, when you consider all this, the finishes applied to all the surfaces in the ship are going to have to be pretty flexible so that they don't lose bond or break while the ship is navigating. So with that in mind, the ship is a moving vehicle, so we got to consider the dead weight of finishes. So the materials must be lightweight. Now, some of the ships can have 13 to 14 decks above the waterline, which is a lot of weight up high. If you reduce the weight of the finishes, you can have less inertial mass that can make the ship more stable when turning in navigation. This reduction in waste can also help with fuel economy because you're moving less mass, of course. Now, an example to consider here, and I'm going to give you an example right from our line, we're going to move right into it, is using a lightweight screed and lightweight tile mortar in a galley application with tile. Now, our MAPEIUSA Marine 1000 is a lightweight material if it's applied at 1¼ inch thick, which is a common thickness for a galley, and around a 2,500 square foot area, which again is a very small galley on one of these ships. These ships, the galleys are rather large. The weight savings for a 2,500 square foot area is about 6,800 pounds or 3,084 kilograms. If we add a lightweight mortar, such as our ultralight S2, you can basically save another 1,136 pounds or 515 kilograms of weight. Now together, that's almost 8,000 pounds. Basically the weight of 2 Tesla Model 3 cars, if you're following the car industry, those cool little electric cars. That's quite a bit of weight that can really help with stability and fuel economy just by switching 2 products. It also has to be resistant to a corrosive environment. Now you can see here in these photographs a pool, an outside deck, and the third photo on the right is actually an internal area where the heating and ventilation systems are located on the ship. Now, most of these ships are going to navigate in a saltwater environment. While we know that saltwater is pretty good for the skin, it's not so good for metal and because it's quite corrosive. Finishing materials that are used in this environment have to be designed in such a way that they're resistant to this corrosive environment and will not deteriorate. Some have a specific design to protect the structure of the ship from exposure to this environment, such as an anti-corrosion primer. also consider a cruise ship as a floating hotel. So in addition to this corrosive environment from the water and the salt water being splashed on it all day long and the salt mist, you also have some very, very severe sanitizing chemicals used to keep the ship clean and hygienic for passengers and crew. Now, we also have to be environmentally friendly at the same time. So we really have to consider a cradle to grave approach on these products. In other words, MAPEI's been making very environmentally friendly products from day one. And we were environmentally friendly with our products before most people thought to be doing that. But it also has to be safe for human to use. In other words, the guys that are actually applying the product has to be safe for them. And we also consider that we want them to be low volatile organic compound containing. So the next part of it is a sustainability. We consider the sustainability of the ship. In other words, we really want to look at the value. So we think about durability of the products, a life critical assessment, how the products impact our environment, how, if they're recycled at the end of their life, how they impact, how much use of recycled materials are used in the materials. And we also consider part of the sustainability would be the use of lightweight products. And many of our underlayments and our products are lightweight. They also have to be certified resistant to fire and not generate toxic fumes if burned. Think about this. You have a ship and it's a steel box designed to keep water out. The design can also make the interior ship a very dangerous place if a fire were to break out. So the finishes used in the ship have to be designed to be resistant to fire and not generate toxic fumes. And the reason why is there's an international code involved. The international code sets how much resistance to fire and how much smoke generation can occur. Moving forward to that, this is where we start talking about the specific designs. Now, you're probably going to notice on many of the packages a little wheel mark. It kind of looks like a ship steering wheel. And that ship steering wheel actually indicates that this product is specifically designed for use on ship. So when we talk about certification, these products need to meet a specific performance criteria. The United Nations is responsible for SOLAS, or safety of life at sea, for all ships navigating our world. They're in charge of a regulating body called the International Maritime Organization, which establishes a group of performance and safety criteria for systems and products used on a ship. The interior and exterior finishes are called primary deck coverings and are regulated in this code. The products made by MAPEI, both in the US and internationally, are designed to meet the demanding engineering requirements and will have a wheel mark certifying that they're tested for fire resistance and smoke generation, Module B. We also are independently certified at the plant level through a series of inspections that validate the product through quality and consistency of manufacturing. The IMO MED type approval is performed by organizations such as RENA in Italy, Lloyd's in the UK, the US Coast Guard in the USA, the ABS, which is the US American Bureau of Shipping, DNV GL, which is in Norway, just to name a few of them. There's other ones obviously in China and Russia and a few other places in the world. Now we move on to the next thing. Another importance that MAPEI can offer is, first of all, we're quality certified. Our production facilities are certified according to EMAS, ISO 9001, ISO 1401, BS OSAS 18001, Environmental and Safety Management Systems. Our products are IMO MED certified by RENA, the Italian Register of Shipping. We also have a mature program of sustainable products. We add recycled materials, we have low emissions of volatile organic compounds, and we also avoid the use of other high-risk substances when formulating our products. An additional bonus, especially in this hemisphere, is many of our products are made in the United States. Now, we move on to some features and advantages of MAPEI, our marine line of products. First of all, we consider that MAPEI is a global company. We have 83 factories in 36 countries, with 31 R&D facilities supporting these. If a product is needed, it's likely not far from a MAPEI facility. Our technical team offers service to survey ships, support questions on application and product selection, as well as investigate issues with products that may not perform to our customers' expectations. We also offer something a little new for MAPEI. It's called a turnkey part of the business. Now, the turnkey side of our business is actually offering the product and the installation service. This was done at the request of the ship owners who wanted to have a one source supply. So they wanted the person that makes the product to install the product and take responsibility from cradle to grave for only the seamless resin decking materials. So that would be your synthetic teak materials and the other rubber deckings that you see on the ship. Now moving forward, when we talk about the areas where these products are going to be applied, we have public areas where you're going to see marble flooring, wood flooring on a dance floor. You might see carpets in common spaces and hallways, other interior spaces with vinyl. You have your spas, which are primarily tile. You have your passenger cabins, which can be carpet, tile, and other surfaces inside. You have your galleys, where we have tile flooring, and we also have resin flooring, depending on the particular ship need. Then you have the internal crew areas, which are what we would call the technical areas. In other words, the areas that your passengers are not typically seeing. It might include a crew cabin, your transport spaces where food and other materials are transported around the ship in corridors and stairwells. You have your sports areas, your running tracks, your basketball courts, volleyball courts, and the like, your water parks, the children's areas, playgrounds. You have open decks where people are just walking around, sunning themselves or doing other things. And then you have your swimming pools, which are tile and resin. So what about talking a little bit about our products? What type of products is MAPEI offering specific to the marine business? Well, we start out with cementitious underlayments, which these are products that we already were offering to the marine business, but we've tailored more to this business. Then we go into resin underlays and top coats. And then we'll finish by talking about the tile adhesives and grouts. To start with, we have the Planibond EBA, which is a two-component 100% solids epoxy bonding agent that we use to bond to metal. And then the MAPEIUSA Marine, which we just discussed. The Marine 1000 is actually a lightweight screed. And then the hybrid is an additive for that marine screed. And then you have the Ultraplan Marine 900, 1400, and Marine Fire. Now the primary differences between those three leveling materials, which are all self-leveling, the 900, 1400, and the Marine Fire, all fiber reinforced self-leveling underlayments designed specifically for the ship. The main difference being that the 900 is about a 0.9 kilogram per liter weight, The Ultraplan Marine is a 1.4 kilogram per liter weight, and the Ultraplan Marine Fire is a 2.0 kilogram per liter weight. Now, so we're understanding the terminology here. When I talk about weight, 2.0 is about the standard weight for most self-leveling underlayments. So when you get down below 2.0, that's a lightweight material. So the 1400 and the 900 are very useful in reducing the load to the ship. Then we talk a little bit about waterproofing systems that are going to be primarily used in the spa areas and the galley areas. The MAPEIUSA 315, which is a 2-component polymer and cement waterproofing, and the Aqua Defense, which is a 1-component latex-based waterproofing. When we get into the resin underlays and top coats, we start out by looking at the primers. The MAPEI Primer 200 is a adhesion promoter. It's a polyurethane-based material, water-based, low VOC. The MAPEI Guard 100 is a high-performance anti-corrosion bonding agent and primer for use under these things. So when we talk about an exterior deck, when we're trying to add a level of anti-corrosion coating to the surface prior to the resin decking being applied, that's when we use the MAPEI Guard 100, especially in swimming pools where you have water on the surface all the time. And then we have our leveling materials, the MAPEI Light Screed, the MAPEI Flexi Screed, the MAPEI Ultra Screed, and the MAPEI EpoScreed Light. So when we talk about the Light Screed, Flex Screed, and Ultra Screed, these are all polyurethane-based underlayments that are lightweight. And with the Ultra Screed, you're about half the weight of the Light Screed and the Flexi Screed. The Flexi Screed is used in areas like children's play areas. The Ultra Screed obviously used on upper decks where we're trying to reduce weight. When we talk about the EpoScreed Light, this is a lightweight screed material that's going to be used in the more commercial areas of the ship, like the corridors and heavy-duty garbage rooms and engine rooms, anywhere where you're going to need a heavy-duty surface that can handle a lot of wear and impact load. The next part of our discussion is talking about the top coats. Now, top coats, we have the MAPEI Design, which is a polyurethane-based finishing topping material. So basically, it's colored. It's what you see. In other words, when you go on a ship and you see this seamless rubber floor that's in blue or yellow or pink, that's the MAPEI Design type product. The teak design is a synthetic teak product, also polyurethane materials. These are both self-leveling. And then the soft design is used also in children's play areas where we're looking for a little bit softer floor, so when the children fall down, they're less likely to get hurt if they hit their head. When we look at the MAPEI Mono design, this is actually a finishing material to add a texture or a faux finish to a wall or floor, such as could be used in a bathroom, could be used in a common area where they're trying to get a specific look, like a rusty metal look or a worn look. And we've seen many of these places. You go to Disney and you see all these faux finishes on the walls. The EpoFloor is again another product where we use in the heavy duty areas. So your garbage rooms, your galleys, your main traffic areas where the crew is running their carts and pulling luggage back and forth or other supplies needed in the ship. And we have a new product here added, which is our MAPEI Terrazzo. Now the MAPEI Terrazzo is an epoxy-based terrazzo material added with aggregates. So if you're wondering what that looks like, if you've ever been in the Miami airport or the Fort Lauderdale airport, and I believe Chicago O'Hare and a few other airports actually have a resin-based epoxy. This is very similar to that, but specifically designed for the ship, given the thought that we have the smoke generation and fire resistance needed. So it has that additional certification. The next level of the top coats is what we would call a protective finish. So the MAPEI Finish HP is actually a colored high performance aliphatic polyurethane coating. Now that finish is designed to be super heavy duty, typically used on the inside of a swimming pool, is one of the most common uses for it in the colored stripes and the things you see on the pool. It can also be used on floors in high traffic areas. When we talk about the MAPEI Finish 100, 100TS, 111R, 111SR, these are colored and transparent aliphatic matte polyurethane finish. They're water-based, low VOC, they're highly resistant to wear and traffic, and again, very safe for interior applications. The MAPEI Finish HTT is a clear shiny finish that we would use on the swimming pool over the MAPEI Finish HP as a final layer. It can also be used in high traffic areas, such as the commercial areas of the ship we discussed earlier. And then the MAPEI Marine Sealer is typically used over the synthetic teak or the MAPEI design products. Now we move on to flooring, to the next part of it, which is our flooring adhesives, our teak adhesives and sealants, and acoustic underlayment systems. So first we start with our Granny Rapid. Now the Granny Rapid is like peanut butter and jelly for the installers on the ships. It's very, very popular because it dries rapidly and it's very flexible. It meets the criteria that we need on a ship. In other words, it has to be open to traffic quickly. These ships are constantly moving, so it's very popular. And then we get into bonding directly to steel and other challenges that we have with bonding tiles in wet areas or bonding very challenging types of tiles. We have the Ultrabond Eco PU2K, which is a 2-component polyurethane adhesive. We also have the Ultracolor Plus FA, which many people are familiar with, which is a rapid setting, high performance cement-based grout. We have the Carapoxy CQ, which is a 2-part 100% solids epoxy grout. And we offer the MAPEI Flex Color 3D, which is that grout that actually takes on the color of the glass tile around it. Very, very interesting product. When we talk about adhesives, we start out with the resilient flooring, which is, we start out with the Ultrabond Eco TX2, which some of you may have heard was the Eco 170. It's designed for the installation of carpets on the ships. It's designed to be resistant to water, fast grabbing, and also designed to meet the requirements that they need, because most of the carpet on the ships is actually a woven or Axminster style carpet, which is a very heavy duty carpet requiring a very high performance adhesive. The Ultrabond EcoFix is designed for your more pressure sensitive applications like your carpet tiles. And we have the Ultrabond Turf PU2K for the outdoor areas where you might have synthetic turf being installed in, say, a miniature golf area or sports area. The Ultrabond Eco 360 is used for the installation of vinyl, which you might find in a crew cabin or in the medical bays. And the G19, obviously for vinyl or rubber materials, high traffic or wet areas. Moving on, we start talking a little bit more specific. The primer TDK we start out with is actually a primer that we apply to the joints of a real wood teak floor. So you've probably seen either in pictures or been on a boat that had teak flooring, and you notice they had that little rubber seam between the the teak planks to seal the boards. What we do to prevent any discoloration of the boards and promote adhesion is we use a primer on those edges of the teak, and that's the primer TDK, teak deck. The Ultrabond M200 TDK is actually a silated polymer-based joint filler. So it's that next generation safe polyurethane type caulk that's moisture cure. Very, very low VOC, safe material. Our conventional polyurethane, which is again a moisture cure single component, is our MAPEIUSA M100 TDK. These both can come in multiple colors, white and black. And then you have your MAPEIUSA M200 AS. Now this is actually a sealant and an adhesive. So you've probably seen someone put a porthole or install any kind of fixture in the side of the hull of the ship. They need to seal this and bond it. And that's where the M200 AS is used. It's also a silated polymer system product. And then we have a very familiar friend, the MAPEIUSA T, which is 100% silicone-based sealant. When we go to the acoustical systems, things get a little bit different. For the acoustical systems, we start with the MAPEIFloat system, which is a floating system, the float name obviously, and that's actually to dampen vibration and sound. And the rating for this is called an A60 rating, which includes both sound and also, I believe, some fire capabilities as well. And then we also have our MAPEDEC IS systems, which are more thin application systems. Now the next part is I'm going to hand over the presentation to Guido Sardi, who's going to start talking to you about our projects that we've done and our turnkey solutions. With that, I'm Guido.
Yes, Mike. Thank you, Mike, for the nice overview of the marine products. Now, my job today is to walk you through some typical application of MAPEI products on board ships, especially on cruise. We start with this picture, which shows the restaurant buffet on the Carnival Elation. As a general information, the ship owners typically tend to award the complete area to refurbish to one contracting company. So the contractor in this case was asked to remove the existing tile floor up to steel, do the surface prep, and reapply a new tile floor, including the underlay. The contractor opted for a cementitious self-leveling material, in this case, the Ultraplan marine file that Mike was mentioning before, which was applied on top of our two-component epoxy primer, Planibond DBA, which worked as an adhesion primer. The ceramic tiles has been glued using our two-component cementitious adhesive Grand Rapid and grouted with our epoxy, GroutCare Epoxy CQ. Before we go to the next slide, I would like to tell something that, let's say, while Mike was going through all the list of materials, you probably found materials that you already know, like the Granny Rapid or Care Epoxy CQ I just mentioned. The main difference is that in the marine line of products, it's very transversal because on board of a ship, we have resin flooring, tile, carpets, vinyl. So you will find in the marine line historical products of MAPEI as well as brand new formulated products. The main difference is what Mike explained before is related to the certification. That wheel mark that goes on the bag or on the pail, this makes the difference because this means that the product is specifically tested and approved to go on board of a ship because it's non-flammable or low flame spread and produces low toxicity of smokes. That's very important to say for you, because so you know that all the products in the marine line have an IMO MAD certification. So next slide. Thank you. So again, this is a spa and beauty salon done on the Carnival elation by one of our contractor. Again, we have a similar system compared to the one we have seen before. So we have an adhesion primer, which is applied on the steel deck, which is the Planibond DBA. The floor, the steel deck has been leveled with our Ultraplan Marine Fire self-leveling cementitious underlay. Tiles are applied with Granny Rapid as an adhesive, and the grout will be Ultracolor plus FA in this case. Next slide. Again, we are on the same ship, and this is another project which involved the pool beach, the pool combing, and the trunk. In this case too, the contractor removed all the existing material up to steel inside the pool, on the pool beach, on the combings, and reapply the floor with tiles and mosaic. After the demolition and suitable surface preparation, all areas have been primed with our anti-corrosive primer, MAPEI Code Guard 100. And in this specific case, it was necessary to level both the horizontal surfaces as well as the vertical sides of the pool combing and the pool trunk. And in this case, this job has been done by our self-leveling underlay MAPEI deck light script TIXO, which was used to level the unevenness of the steel. Then tile and mosaic in this case has been glued with our marine certified PU adhesive Ultrabond Eco PU 2K and grouted with the Kerapoxy CQ. Next slide. Okay, now we go. Now we talk about the turnkey solutions Mike mentioned it before. We are talking here about resin flooring, and this is the only case where we go on board and apply the resin floor with our own team. You can see three pictures. The first on the left shows a jogging track application done with our polyurethane highly decorative resin floor MAPEI deck design. In the center, the picture in the center is the Carnival Pride, in this case the pool trunk, where you see the dolphin and the curved lines. So we removed actually the previous coat, and we reapply a full system of resin inside the pool trunk. And the picture on the right showed what is considered nowadays the standard of teak imitation on board the ships, which is resin. More and more, the traditional teak has been removed on cruise ship and replaced with resin. The advantages are the one that Mike mentioned before. We are talking about a lightweight material. We are talking about a seamless application. So this resin layer will protect the steel deck from corrosion or from water, which can reach the steel, and corrode it. Next slide, please. Another example of other resin floors applied on board. In this case, all the four pictures show the application done on board the 3 ferries connecting Genoa in Italy to the island of Sardinia. These are ferries that, you know, the route between Genoa and Sardinia, it's typically 12-15 hours. So they allow also to embark dogs. And in this case, the picture number 1 and the picture number 2 shows what they call the feeder park, on which we applied our MAPEI deck design. Let me emphasize to you that the dog footprint you can see in the detailed picture on the second picture from the left is not painted, but it's inlaid. This means that it will not wear out as a standard paint with time, but will maintain its original color and shape for the entire life of the floor. The other two pictures show respectively the children area, which has been applied using our MAPEI soft design, so a specific elastic resin, which make the area more comfortable for the kids. While the last picture on the right shows the application of our MAPEI design, so our polyurethane resin floor in a passenger cabin, replacing the traditional carpet you can typically find in a crew cabin, in a passenger cabin on board the ship. Next slide, Mike. Okay, now here we have an example of what Mike mentioned before. We are on the Costa Favolosa cruise ship and the galley. So typically, and until a few years ago, you would find the tile floor in an area like this. But recently, some ship owners like Costa are trying to remove the existing flooring with tiles, which causes high maintenance costs, and replace it with a seamless epoxy heavy-duty resin floor, which will protect the steel from corrosion, and at the same time will give to the floor a very good grip in terms of anti-slip properties. In this case, the product that has been applied is our MAPEI EpoFloor, so our two-component epoxy resin system. Next slide, please. Another example of internal areas on a ship. The first picture on the left and the last and the first picture on the right shows our MAPEI EpoScreed I just mentioned it to you. You have to consider that crew areas, which are typically those areas which are not visible to customer of a cruise ship, don't need to be very fancy, but they have to resist to wear and tear. For this reason, we apply the MAPEI EpoScreed, which is an heavy-duty epoxy floor. And this is the one you see in blue on the pictures. The picture in the middle show the lobby area. In this case, this lobby area is situated between the crew corridors, which are applied with the blue flooring, with the EpoFloor. And in this case, the cruise owner opted for a thick imitation because this is a lobby. So the customers are walking on it because especially in certain points, they have to use lower decks to go in and out the ship, to do some visits, to visit the areas outside. And in this case, we applied again the thick imitations I showed you before. Next slide. Mike, can you go to the next slide, please? Oh, thank you. So I have another couple of examples I want to show you very quickly. This is the mono design Mike mentioned to you before. We are talking about one component acrylic resin. In this case, this is a project that we have done on the Royal Caribbean, on the Oasis of the Seas, in an area called the Music Hall. This area was previously covered with upholstery. The contractor removed all the old wall coverings, and we proceeded with application of our highly decorative acrylic resin named MAPEI Mono Design. This product is very versatile as it can be applied both in horizontal and vertical on the internal areas of a ship, including the skirting connecting the horizontal, say, the flooring and the vertical walls. Next slide, please. Okay, last but not least, and this is the last slide of our presentation for today, which gives you an overall idea of what we can offer as far as marine products, is the last design resin floor, which is called the MAPEI Terrazzo. This is an epoxy-based terrazzo with aggregates in the mix, which recreate the beauty of the old Venetian terrazzo flooring in a product which is IMO MED certified and therefore can be installed on board internal areas of a ship. In this case, you can see this material applied by our team on board of the Viking Star River cruise ship in the restaurant floor. Next. As I said, now we are done with our presentation and we thank you for your attention. I give the word back to Jen.
Thanks, Guido, and thank you, Mike. And we do have some questions. Let's see here. The first question, do the top coats include UV resistance to prevent fading?
All the top coats are designed with UV resistance in mind for exterior coatings. Typically, your aliphatic coatings on the exterior of the ship are chosen for that purpose so they don't yellow or change color. The pigments chosen are obviously tested using a weatherimeter to make sure that fading is very minimal. But again, most of these ships operate in the tropics, so you're talking about the strongest sunlight possible.
Yeah, that's true, huh? Okay, next question. You showed a resin system in the pool. Is there a system for marine applications for tile installation inside the pool?
Absolutely. As you saw in a few of the photos, there is instances where they tile the interior of the pool. So we would use similar leveling systems to that we would use with the resin finishes like the MAPEI Finish HP. And instead of using that, we would install using the Ultrabond Eco PU2K, the tile on the interior of the pool, and maybe use an epoxy grout for high performance and wear.
Okay. Other question. Metal decking on floors can be a little wavy. How do you effectively smooth a surface for a resin finish?
That's a good question. So you have to consider that the resin, say, we have several ways to level as we showed. We have cementitious self-leveling materials, or we have resinous self-leveling materials. But more in general, you have to consider that we are always talking about a system. So in both cases, even if we have a floor in, let me say, traditional material like a tile or carpet, or if you have a resin floor, um, you always need to apply a self-leveling underlay, because the self-leveling, as the name says, will level the unevenness of the steel. So it can be a cementitious one, like the Ultraplan different materials that Mike showed us, or it can be a polyurethane or epoxy based on the different scopes.
All right. Do you have an A60 fire boundary system?
Okay, let's say okay, we have A60 systems that are actually studied to reduce So that are studied for acoustic reason. We are currently studying something related to fire, but let's say this product is still under development at the moment.
All right. Is the synthetic teak product applied on the ship a prefabricated sheet product?
Okay, this is again a good question, because one of the most confusing thing talking about resin is their application. I didn't spend too much time, and I apologize for this, in explaining how in detail how the resin, the application of a resin flooring works. But typically, especially on big areas like the one we can find on a cruise ship, we applied the materials on board with a specialized team of applicators, meaning that you have to consider that the materials are supplied in pails, and most of them are two components. So you typically mix the part A, which is the base, with the part B, which is the hardener, and then you pour it on the floor and apply it in place. This is done for the primer, for the underlay, and for the top coat of a resin product. We do manufacture also prefabricated elements, like we can do pool bull noses in resin prefab. We can do pool benches, or in teak imitation, for example, or skirtings of a flooring, both in polyurethane and epoxy. This depends how we decide to how we agree also with the ship owner how to do the project once we are on board in a dry dock, for example.
Gotcha. Okay. All right. Another question. What type of surface preparation is needed to apply a cement-based underlayment?
That's a great question. Typically, remember that on a land-based job, we're going over concrete, maybe over plywood. In the case of a ship, most often we're going over a steel or aluminum deck. So what we're going to employ is using a primer like the Planibond EBA, and then we'll broadcast a coarse sand into the wet primer while it's still in wet state to rejection. In other words, it's going to look like sand laying on the floor. We'll let that primer cure, and then we'll apply the leveler to that. The epoxy sticks to the floor, the sand sticks to the epoxy, and then the leveler sticks to the sand. And that's really the mechanism of bonding. I hope that answers the question.
That's a great answer to a really great question. And if there are any more questions, now's the time to type them in, or forever hold your peace until you can type them to us at mapeidigital@mapei.com, because we're always happy to answer them there. But this will conclude today's webinar. And I want to thank you guys for participating. It was a great topic. And I want to thank everybody in the audience for joining us. We know that you have very busy days, so we appreciate the time that you spend with us. Again, if you do have any more questions, please send them to mapeidigital@mapei.com, and we'll be sure to get them to Mike and Guido, and we'll make sure that your questions are answered. And with that, that'll conclude today's webinar, and we'll see you next time. Have a great rest of your day, everybody. Thank you. Bye-bye.